So good afternoon, everybody. Before I start, I'd just like to reiterate what Kyle said, and a huge big thank you to Russ and Rob for what they do, their thought leadership, their vision, and making the world a better place as they see. So a big thank you to both of you for what you do. You are changing the world. So my name is David Beatty, and what I'm here to talk to you about today is what we call Venture Capital 3.0. What we see that as being, it's taking the existing incredible business model of venture capital and increasing it, expanding it to people who don't have the opportunity to participate in it. And the problem we're looking to solve is not so much that there's not enough money to invest in women and minorities and diverse people, but there's not enough women, minorities, and diverse people who have the expertise, who have the opportunity to exploit this incredible system that's available in venture capital. And the problem we're going to talk about in our lab in that room over there in a few minutes is how we can engage with and educate family offices that you can actually really make highly profitable investments while also bringing in huge new communities into the ecosystem. So that's what we're going to talk about. So who's this white guy up here talking to you about diversity, equity, and inclusion? So first and foremost, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also the founder of Gaingels. We are one of the most active venture capital firms in the world. And I'm also a gay man. I've also experienced homophobia, discrimination. I grew up in a society that told me I could not be my true authentic self. I grew up in a society that told me that for me to be able to be 100% of my value, I could not do that if I was to be valued by society. Think about it for a second, about the loss of productivity globally by us as societies not accepting people for who they are. It's massive. So what do we do at Gaingels? We seek to co-invest alongside the top venture capital firms in the world to get outstanding returns. And we've become really, really good at it. Our 2019-2020 returns are 70% IRR showing. I can't believe that myself. It's incredible. But I think one of the reasons why we've been so successful is because of our brand. Our whole brand is based on how we promote our communities of founders, our communities of investor members, and communities of venture capital partners to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it makes business sense. There is so much research already out there that says if you've got a diverse management team, you will fiscally outperform companies that don't. It's common knowledge in public markets or public companies that if you've got a diverse board, you fiscally outperform companies that don't. And as I said, that's who I am. So let's talk briefly about what we mean by Venture Capital 3.0. Venture Capital 1.0 really started after the Second World War, and it was when a whole load of privileged people who had access to the latest technologies with powerful networks from top Ivy League schools who would fund them to actually create this amazing business model that allowed you to take really high risks on really high potential technologies and management teams to make great companies, knowing that many of the companies that they would invest in their portfolio would fail, but that the companies that they invested in would far, far exceed the losses and give great returns. And that's what Venture Capital 1.0 was. It was the elite people from generally Ivy League schools who made this wonderful model of venture capital. Fast forward to probably after the dot-com bust is when telecommunications and computers came together and created this huge new opportunity. And that's what we've been seeing over the last 20 years. But it's still generally controlled by the same people. The same networks investing in by the same networks. And what we see is there's a huge opportunity to bring in more people into the ecosystem. And what we speak about is it's not a lack of money, but it's rather a lack of talent, because talent and potential, I assert, is universally distributed. Opportunity is not. And so what we need to do is we need to make the environment more hospitable for people so they have the opportunity to learn about the ecosystem and the incredible business model that it is. We believe that if you've worked for a venture-backed company, you are more likely to start a venture-backed company. If you've made an investment alongside a venture capital firm and make a whole load of money, what are you going to do? You're going to tell your friends and family about it. And you're also more likely that your kids are going to actually want to go into venture capital. And so we see it as a lack of opportunity that's out there. And so that's what we look to do at Gaingels. So who are we? And what does Gaingels do about this? So first thing you need to know, that we decided a long time ago that we're hard-ass capitalists. We are looking to make as much money as we possibly can for our member investors and therefore for ourselves in the venture capital ecosystem. And the way we look to do that is we look to co-invest alongside the top venture capital firms in the ecosystem. And why? I'm going to show you one slide. Oops, here we go. You can see here on the right the difference between historical performance of top versus bottom quartile managers in global equities. It's not particularly huge. When you go into private equity, you can see there's a huge difference between the top performing and the bottom performing managers. And when you get into venture capital, it's gigantic. And so what everybody tries to do in our industry is to co-invest with those folks in the green, because it's generally the same firms that are in that green place. Because they've been at it for a long time, they've got humongous amounts of money. So money is never the issue when they've got a company that's really going for it. And they've got amazing networks, and they know what they're doing. But the sad part of it is no one of us in this room can invest into those funds because they're all closed. They're closed to the pension funds that invested in them initially. They're closed to the super, super high net worths that invested in them initially. And the only people that they will generally let into their funds are people who can be of super high value to them. And yet we have found a way that we can be of superior value so that we get access to co-invest with them, alongside them into the deals that they're leading. And that's really what our success has been, in that we have managed to do that. And we do that, we believe our success has been because our whole company is out there promoting that our communities of portfolio entrepreneurs, our communities of venture capital partners, and our investor members embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's what we do. So what does Gaingels do? Well, as I said, first and foremost, we're hard-assed we're hard-assed capitalists. And we really we speak about 3, 2, 1. And that is 3 principles, 2 strategies, and 1 mission. I'm going to see what I heard that this side of the room has got weird acoustics, but we'll see what it's like. So 3 strategies. The first is that we have to be big. Because if we're to influence the industry, we have to be able to sit alongside those leaders in the industry. Because then we can have conversations with them. And then we can talk to them about why diversity, equity, and inclusion matters. We can talk to them about the opportunities that they're missing, the opportunities that they see that they're missing, because firms like Andreessen Horowitz, I mean, even Citibank have funds specifically to now invest into minorities. We have to be big if we're to be able to influence the industry. The second thing we believe is that we must avoid preaching to the choir. We have to be prepared to invest in people that might not, at this time, have the same beliefs of us, because how else are we going to be able to influence them? And so that is what we do. As I said, we're hard-ass capitalists. And the third thing is that this is long-term. This is not going to happen overnight. And when we talk about long-term, what I speak about, okay, imagine for a second a scale of 0 to 100. And 0 over here is the worst environment you can think of. It has got no diversity. It has got all the bad things you can think of. It's the worst country to be in. It is the worst place to be. And imagine over here, 100, DEI utopia. To me, that's Star Trek. Because it doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter where you come from. Everybody's been given the same opportunity to be able to participate. And what we see as our project, as what our mission, is to help each one of our communities of portfolio companies, our portfolio entrepreneurs, our investor members, and our venture capital partners to move along that scale, 1 point at a time, 1 company at a time, 1 person at a time. And if we can achieve that consistently, then we move the whole industry closer to that DEI utopia. And that's what we spend our time doing. So I've spoken about our 3 strategies. Our 3 philosophies, our 2 strategies are around what we call the Gaingels letter and the Venture Inclusion Program. So the Gaingels letter is a letter that we ask every CEO of every portfolio company we invest in to voluntarily sign. And there's 7 things in it. You can go to gaingels.com. It's right there, second line on our homepage. And there's 7 things in it that we believe are practical things that these people can do to move along that scale, any one of them. That includes signing the Parity Pledge. The Parity Pledge is a pledge to go to the hassle of finding a woman or minority to interview for every job that you're hiring. You still want to hire the best people, but go and find it. And one of the things that we do is you'll find out in the Venture Inclusion Program that we help our portfolio companies do easier to do that because it is tough. Believe me, I know I've hired 50 people in the last 2 years, and it is very difficult when you're under a lot of pressure to bring people into the team to go outside of your own networks, but it's worth it. Another thing we do is the Diverse Check Writers Pledge. We ask every company, every portfolio company to discuss with their board to sign the Diverse Check Writers Pledge, which is a pledge to make available a certain dollar amount or a certain percentage of a future fundraise to diverse check writers. Why? Because that expands the number of people who are able to write checks. It expands the number of people who are able to talk to their communities and invest in their early stage companies. The Venture Inclusion Program has got 3 legs to it. It's got participation, thought leadership, and purchasing. Now, purchasing, I'm going to go backwards. Purchasing, we just copy what the Fortune 500s do. It's all about minority suppliers. And what we do is we introduce the concept of buying from minority suppliers to our portfolio companies. Because these are the Fortune 500s of tomorrow. And we know that they want to do the right thing. But most of them don't even know that minority supplier organizations exist. The second is thought leadership. It's speaking at events like this. It's joining organizations like Out Leadership, which is the preeminent LGBT organization for Fortune 500s. Their tagline is Return on Equality. It's a fabulous tagline. And then there's participation. And I actually think participation is really about inclusion, participation, and representation. And representation is so important because that's the foundation of stories. And stories in our world tell the world what is and is not possible. And the more stories we can have about minorities making successful returns, diverse people founding and creating great companies, the more the rest of the world realize that is possible. And it's a network effect. And in participation, we do things like our board diversity program. We've got 2 people in our company who do nothing but help our portfolio companies recruit independent minority board members. The Gaingels Scholars, we give $5,000 grants to minority LGBT youth to go to college and help them get interviews with our portfolio companies. We actually help them get interviews for real or fictitious jobs because, as you know, getting interview experience is really important. That's the kind of stuff that we do. And we constantly see that what we have to do is help our communities of portfolio entrepreneurs, our member investors, and venture capital firms do practical and profitable strategies, practical and profitable things that embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion, because generally that's what they want to do. So that's who we are. And with that, I'd like to say thank you all for your time and attention and appreciate what you do. Thank you.